Isn't it kind of crazy how just absurd this whole world is, man? We get these crazy file drops. Everyone knows. I know a lot of people have been in the know. If you're a real one that's been seeking some real information, I appreciate your dedication to the truth, bro. But now that a bunch of normies are seeing what and who is running this place, and now they're starting to understand, like, wow, everything's a scam. Our job's a scam. School's a scam. Social media's a scam. Celebrities are a scam. Politicians are a scam. It's like, you know what? I'm not even going to say, like, yeah, everyone's been telling you so. I'm just happy everyone seems to be finally awake. Not going to lie, I kind of worry for the normies right now. Because it is a lot. I'm sure if you're watching this, you may have woken up at some point. I remember it was kind of a lot for a little bit. Maybe you get into a little bit of nihilism, maybe a little bit of depression, and you're like, dang. So if everything's fake, how do I keep living in this world? And, eventually over time you find the power within. You master the force inside you to find peace and love and all that jazz. But I'm kind of worried for the normies right now. Especially the normies who were like rioting and protesting over like some crackhead getting killed in the streets, and they like burned down cities because of that. And it was like, yeah, that was an unfortunate event. Definitely shouldn't have happened. But it was like one of those things where it was like, kind of like, where was the logic, Like it was rough, but to that extent, a little too much. So with this, man, I don't know. Are they like charging their spirit bomb right now? Or like what's going to happen with these guys? It actually starts making me think, like, we know a lot of these protests and riots were funded, right? And it's interesting that none are happening right now. Obviously there's some happening in like Minneapolis and whatnot for the ICE stuff, but for this one, hey, guess what? Guess who runs everything? Guess who steals all your money to kill civilians? Guess who steals kids? Guess who sacrifices to ancient deities? The people you guys have been rooting for. Like, these guys were good people to begin with. But anywho, enjoy the nuke bomb of truth. But I kind of worry about him, man. I kind of worry about him because it is kind of a lot, especially if you were just such a normie that never saw through any veil or like had any self-awareness of how this world actually works. Like, these people are losing their minds. And ooh, man, I'm afraid of the rates, the what's the word, unaliving rates. Kind of worried about that, man. Kind of worried about that because a lot of people tend to, seek an exit when they do see the truth. So now that a bunch of these guys I am a little worried about them, man. But man, isn't this world just so absurd? Isn't it also absurd, like, certain people that aren't angry enough as well? Where it's like certain people cared more about, remember the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing? I always felt like that was like such a clear telltale sign of like who's an NPC and who's not. We're going through like the COVID times. Not everyone's buying into it, but a lot of people are buying into that. There's a lot of corruption, and then there's also the Pentagon disclosed UFOs. Remember that article that was like not from this world? But then you just had people like talking about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. I felt like that was when you could really tell who the NPCs were. It was like, man, you guys really just care about celebrities and stuff. And I sometimes wonder, man, and maybe this is kind of rude of me to think, but I'm trying to find a justifiable reason of why certain people care so much about celebrities and like drama and stuff like that. Is it because they see themselves as a potential celebrity? Do they feel like they relate to that type of stuff? Where it's like, oh, that could happen to me, bro. I'm going to be famous. It's like, no, you're not. You might find, if you put yourself out there, you can find some homies. I agree with that. But to be to that level of fame, a lot of that's like nepotism and industry plants, connections to throw you in to sell whatever narrative they want you to sell. They want you to be their little puppet. Most of the time. There are some cases of, well, you could definitely be successful, but, if you're a household name, bro, you're compromised. Maybe you weren't on the island, but you were probably on the ranch. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. It always perplexed me why certain people cared so much about these horrible people that just happen to be, like, in movies that they cut up. It's like, some of them are talented. I will say, some of them are talented. I'll give you that. But a lot of talent goes unnoticed, So, and the thing is, like, when something's big enough, it almost like just feeds itself, because a lot of people don't really think for themselves. They'll be like, oh, a lot of people like this, I like it too. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of like good art out there that doesn't get recognition because they don't have the money behind it to push it to that level. But once the money's behind it, like if you're in a band, right, and you have money, you could buy your way into festivals and just be like, here I am. And people will be like, wow, they must be a big deal. They're here. They'll like, I don't know. I feel like people don't understand how this world works. I imagine if you're watching this, you know what's up. But if you don't, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just letting you know how it works. I could probably articulate it in a better way as well. Maybe I'll revisit it at some point. But I'm just sitting here tonight, man. I'm just thinking like how just absurd this time is. How absurd. And in the sense of it's interesting seeing this type of information hit the mainstream. And it's like, what are the normies gonna do, man? I mean, I'm down. We could take these guys out in GTA. We really could. We just need everyone to be on the actual like same side and stop being so brainwashed for Republican or Democrat. Like that's literally for three heads, man. Like, are you kidding me? I have hope that these people will wake up to the actual reality. I think they just need a little bit of time. They got hit with some big news. If you weren't aware of that stuff until now, it probably feels pretty heavy.